I
How
always
are
get a
you
kick
today?
out of us
I know.
doing our
I
little
watch you in the
tapings.
background.
It's great.
How was your day today, Adriana?
It's so early. It feels so strange. I even went
I
in early.
know.
Nobody else was there. It was weird. It's a
I
weird
hope
day,
everybody's
but I
very
like it.
proud of me that I made it here at 6 o'clock.
Right? Look at this. Look at this. Starting basically on time. I love
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
So, and it's
now
great for all the East Coasters.
I do love that when we do an early stream
Yeah.
every now and then we get to see some of our East Coast patrons and people and friends, you know.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes it's just hard to get here in time with work and all the things. But
Freaking
it was
great.
worth
So,
it to have our guest on tonight. I'm super excited. I hope you guys are excited too. Now,
yes, I did see
Audrey,
that Kilco.
you've never heard her, right?
I've never met her or anything. So, but I remember when you came back from the New Orleans thing, you were going on about it and how awesome it was. So, and specifically about meeting her and the pairing that y'all did, which was crazy to me because I was like, I don't know that I could drink at 10 a.m.
Yeah, so she taught a whiskey and cigar pairing class, and that's actually where I got to hear some of her story.
Yeah.
Kyoko needs coffee. Why, Kyoko? Why do you need coffee?
I think Kilco was streaming earlier and he sent everybody over. So people are all saying,
Yep,
Brian
there we
sent him.
go.
So
John,
thanks a lot,
he
buddy.
says Kyoko sent him. Hey, Des is here.
Yes.
Joseph Brazo, I did see your message, and I was cleaning up whiskey that Murphy spilled, so I was not able to respond. So basically, yes, I am making you drink and smoke earlier in the evening, so live with it.
You're welcome.
Hey, Scott Moody's here. Okay.
Hey, what's up?
Oh my goodness. So I'm not even gonna try and tell you all the great things about Maggie. So I'm gonna let her do it because I think I won't do it justice. So
we're gonna leave it to the expert.
we are. With that, a couple little bits of housekeeping. Don't forget Patreon Plinko at the very end of the stream. She would love to have questions from you guys, so shout them out. Raise your hand loudly. I don't know. Do your thing. Ask her questions. She's got a lot of knowledge. Let's pick her brain. Joseph, you are pairing Discovery Series 7. Oh, Maureen Franchi's here too.
That's why.
I am not having a cigar because I don't have the cigar bar finished yet. It's still in construction. And it's hot.
We were smoke.
Carrying out bottles of whiskey out of there yesterday because it's so hot. Okay. Well, with that, let's bring on Maggie Kimberl.
Do it.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
I'm Maggie Kimberl. I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I am the content editor of American Whiskey Magazine. I am a contributing editor to Whiskey Magazine. I contribute to Artisan Spirit Magazine, Distiller Magazine, Alcohol Professor, and I'm also the chair of the World Whiskies Awards in the United States, and a few other things.
And a few other things.
And just a few other things. It's a long, how do you fit all of that on a card?
I don't. I feel like at this point, like, either you know me or you don't, and it doesn't bother me either way.
Fair.
It's a whole world to be into.
So how long have you been doing now? See, I met her at the
New Orleans Bourbon Festival
in NOLA.
My whiskey in one of my 3 sections of my whiskey and cigar pairing class that I taught. It's a very popular class. I've been teaching it since the beginning of the festival. And it always is completely packed, and I'll have people who come in and wait. I'll have people line up if they haven't gotten a spot through the app. And then if somebody is a no-show, I try to get as many of those people in as I can because everybody wants to take this class. Sometimes people don't wake up at 10 o'clock in the morning in New Orleans. So, you know, it's kind of, it can be a little hairy for some people. But it's great to get people when they're still fresh in the morning because they're a lot more receptive to the information. And in New Orleans, I mean, come on, what else are you going to be doing other than drinking and smoking cigars at 10 o'clock in the morning?
Sure. I had a great time.
That's fair.
And
I guess
everybody
having a beignet.
is watching at home, like, please ask me the hardest question you can come up with, because I love answering the really nerdy, really geeky questions. So hit me with your best shot.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
awesome.
We love the
So,
geeky stuff.
so like, we are, where are you? You're in Kentucky, right?
Louisville, Kentucky. I'm a 9th generation Louisvillian.
Oh,
And
wow.
I am actually related to Evan Williams. I found out about a year and a half ago. My 6th great grandfather was the first one who came here. So that's who I'm descended from 9 generations. And he is actually buried at the Louisville Zoo. That was his farmland. So that's the family cemetery there at the
Oh,
Louisville Zoo. And Evan Williams married one of his daughters, my 5th great grandaunt. So Evan Williams is my 5th great grand uncle.
oh, wow.
No way. Oh, wow.
So
And
you didn't
I
live in
also
Kentucky.
recently found out that another one of my relatives was a distiller. So Samuel McHargue ran the McHargue mill that his father built in eastern Kentucky. And I was doing a little research on the genealogy and figured out that we were related, to that mill, that there's a replica mill that's been built in a park there of that original mill. And I started talking to the miller because I have no chill. And he was like, oh, hey, did you know this Samuel was a distiller? I have a tax record that shows he was a distiller. And I was like, there you go. So that is
Wow.
my 5th great grandfather who was a distiller in eastern Kentucky.
This was
So,
meant to be.
Yeah.
Your life was pre-planned.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm about as Kentucky as it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's funny because I had been wondering, and I still do want to ask this, like how you got into being a whiskey writer, basically. But I'm thinking about that, I was thinking, like, what did
The
she want to be
ancestors
as a
made me do
kid?
it.
Yeah, I was like, what did she want to be as a
Well,
kid? And I'm
so
like,
I mean,
now
it's
hearing
kind
this,
of
I'm like, well,
these are things that I've just discovered, right, in recent years, that I would not
right.
have discovered without being on this journey. So the way that I actually came to be doing this was when my kids were little, as a stay-at-home mom, and I eventually needed to get out of the house to a place where there were no children. And so I got a part-time job at the liquor store. And this was this was when the bourbon boom was just barely simmering.
Mhm.
And so the master distillers would come in and do tastings and bottle signings in the store, and nobody knew who they were. Nobody cared. Like, people would walk by Jimmy Russell, take a shot, and keep walking and not talk to him, which is crazy
Nuts.
to think about now, right? Because he's like
Yeah.
the Buddha of bourbon.
Right.
Um, and so, like I got to meet all kinds of people doing that. Like Chris Morris made me my first mint julep that I ever had in my life. I got to meet so many amazing people. And then one of those was Jim Rutledge when he was still with Four Roses. And he was in my store doing a tasting and bottle signing during Derby week. But it was so busy that I didn't get a chance to talk to him. And then he was packing up to leave and I had to go on break. And so I was sitting in the break room, like eating my sad little peanut butter sandwich. And the next thing I knew, Jim comes through the door with bottles in one hand and cups in the other hand. He's like, you didn't get to do my tasting. And he sat down with me for like 20 minutes. He taught me the proper bourbon tasting technique, the history of Four Roses, the 10 different recipes, which recipes are in which bottles, and I retained none of that at that time.
Right.
But what I did retain was oh my God, this is amazing. I have to tell the whole world about this. And so I quit my job and started writing about whiskey.
Oh,
Wow.
well, you retained something because you had to write about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was really awesome. Oh, your daughter works at Michter's, so Michter's is a great company. Love all the people who work down there. They have put together a Cracker Jack team down there at Michter's, and I really enjoy going there. They have a fabulous bar. If you're visiting Louisville and you're looking for a late night cocktail spot, that's one of my favorite places to send people, because it's got the mezzanine is open to the distillery. So while you're sitting there drinking your cocktails, you can walk out into this mezzanine area and look down into the distillery and see the whole
Oh, that's cool.
distillery, which is really cool because, it's a small distillery for doing a distillery tour, but it's a great spot to go get cocktails. They have an excellent cocktail program. and it's just that's the only place you can go and like have a cocktail and like hang out and like, see how the fermenters are
I'd be
doing. And,
watching.
they're
Mhm.
the whole shebang's just down there. So it's pretty cool.
Now, I've heard great things about their bar and their cocktails. When we went down there, we didn't get the opportunity to go there. And so when we were going back down, that was going to be like our second stop. And then the trip didn't happen. We had a death in the family. And so now we've got it all mapped out. And we had to cancel our Buffalo Trace tour. But we've got it all mapped out now. I'm trying to turn it into a Kentucky, Tennessee kind of thing, but we'll see.
That would be cool.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
can be tough unless you just really have everything planned out super well, because like in Kentucky things are really spread out, but when you're trying to do Kentucky and Tennessee, that's a lot of driving in between stops.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, and so
Plan
I was hoping to do, because I love Nashville and I've been wanting to go back. I went there on a business trip and I never got to go again. So I wanted to like fly into Nashville, do some things for a few days, and then fly to Louisville and do it that way. But
Nashville's only like a 3.5-4 hour drive from Louisville, so flying is not really the best way to do that. And there are definitely stops on 65.
Oh yeah.
that trying to think, there's one that's kind of like 45 minutes to an hour from Nashville on 65.
Okay.
I can't remember which one it is, but Nashville, like Nelson's Greenbrier, Nashville Barrel Company, a lot of great stops in and around the Nashville area that are definitely worth checking out. And then when you're on 65, I mean, you're going right past Bardstown, and I mean, so there's a lot of cool stuff to do in that corridor for sure.
I actually want to stay in Frankfurt. That's where I want to stay when we go. We actually had like an Airbnb booked and we had everything planned, and then we weren't able to go. But if you're familiar with Frankfurt, there's I think it's a brewery or some kind of a beer bar downtown, and above it is a little Airbnb. We were going to stay there. And then, because I love going to Bardstown. I love going to, it used to be, they changed their name, then they changed it back. It's a little tiny craft distillery. They're very young. Four brothers, Whiskey Thief.
Oh yeah. They actually just announced that Lisa Wicker is going to be their master distiller. So that's going to be really exciting. Lisa's a good friend of mine. I've actually got her. I nominated her as a Kentucky Colonel, and I've got her certificate right here. And we just haven't she's been a Colonel for like a year, and I haven't had a chance to actually give her certificate because we only see each other when we're not in Kentucky. But she's a very talented master distiller. She's had an amazing career. She was with Widow Jane for a really long time. She did a lot of really cool stuff before that. And she had a really weird, like, kind of blip on the radar. She was working for this company called Garrett County Distilling, and they announced her. They officially announced her after she had been working there for a few months, and then fired her like 5 days later.
What?
It was the most bizarre. And now they have gone into receivership, and the bank has repossessed the distillery. It looks like they're going to be going out of business. Unfortunately, a lot of people are going to be losing their jobs there. So that part of it's a bummer. But Lisa has landed on her feet, and she's going to be the master distiller and production.
I love that place.
Production manager for Whiskey Thief. So I'm really excited for them. I think that's going to be exciting. Awesome for them and awesome for her as well.
Well, and they, when I was there, which was a bit ago, they were storing their barrels off-site because they didn't have enough room, and they were trying to get it back on-site. I don't know if they did or not, but let me tell you, that's the place, Adriana, where you see me with a cigar and Will's walking with the black cat walking alongside him.
Oh,
it's just the coolest place. It's like a barn.
So. You can always remind me of something by telling me the pet that was involved in the in the scenario. It's like, oh yes, that rings.
Oh yeah, you're speaking my language now. My cat has his own Instagram. My dog.
You have to drop the Instagram.
Had her own Twitter. I think I finally did shut that down. But my cat has his own Instagram. It's Mayor Perryite. If anybody wants to follow my cat.
You're writing that
Mayor,
down, Adriana?
yeah, I've already written down a couple of things.
Great.
So,
yeah,
I know
I've always
your
told my
Instagram.
husband that our Yorkie needs to have her own page. But, you know, we
My
just,
dog doesn't.
you know, that takes a lot of effort. But our Bichon Frise has his own hashtag, but not his own page.
Aw, I bet he's a good dog.
He's the one that knocked over the whiskey right before the stream.
He didn't, he didn't mean it.
Exactly.
It was
with
the
love.
cone.
Yeah, it was with love.
Yeah.
Something I was wondering, as like a whiskey writer, so is it that, like, because you're freelance, so is it that they come to you with ideas they want you to research and write, or is it that you pitch ideas that
I pitch
you've been
ideas that,
researching?
like,
kind
I
of?
have a whole, I got to the point where I had so many ideas that I couldn't, like, I would have Post-it notes all the way around my monitor, and then they would start falling off, and I'd be like, oh no, this amazing story, and so, like, I just actually have a Google Doc now where I just keep a running tally of all the stories that I want to do. And if somebody's like, hey, I need 2 stories for this issue, what do you got? I just, like, copy, paste, pick some.
Oh, okay.
I love that.
Like, as I go along, I drop it down and I add more, and I drop it down and I add more. And
Yep.
so, yeah, it's so funny because when I first started doing this, I started off as, kind of the bourbon beat writer for Louisville.com. And I had to do 3 stories a week, which seems like a lot when you're not used to that kind of turnover.
That sounds like a ton to me. Yeah.
Seems like a
And I was
lot.
like, oh God, what if I can't come up with a story idea? And, like, I look back at that now and I laugh because I was just, like, in this panic, like,
Yeah.
the blood drain from my face panic, because, like, what if I can't come up with a story idea? And now I look back at that, I'm like, I have 10 stories before I finish my coffee in the morning. And I can't do them all because there are not enough magazines that have enough pages to put me on so I can do all these stories. So, I mean, there's a lot of really cool stuff going on out there. I'm doing a story right now about 2 women in the industry on completely opposite sides of the country. So I don't know. Have you all heard of Nancy Fraley?
Of course. Yes. The whiskey knows,
Nancy
of course.
Fraley is, like, one of the most amazing blenders in the industry, and she's worked with a bunch of different brands. But one of the things that she's not celebrated enough for is she can identify and mentor new blenders to take her place when she leaves a brand. So there are 2 of them that I have zeroed in on who she's been working with for 2 or 3 years. One of them is Amanda Beckwith at Virginia Distillery Company. And the other one is Nicole Roberts at Wyoming Whiskey.
Yes.
And so both of these
Wyoming
women
whiskey.
started off in the gift shop, and Nancy saw potential in them and was able to nurture that potential. And now they both lead the blending programs at those distilleries, which is pretty amazing. So that's a story that I'm working on for Artisan Spirit magazine, is just people that, that Nancy Fraley had. Oh, Irene Tan is awesome.
I love Irene. Love her.
When I judged ADI in San Francisco last year, and Irene's fabulous. But
you have not had a good time until you've been trapped in the back seat of a pickup for multiple hours with Irene. It's a blast.
that sounds awesome.
Oh my God.
That sounds really, really awesome. But yeah, there are so many awesome people that I want to do stories about all the time. Nicole I met 2 years ago, and she was kind of in the back of my mind. And when I called her today, she was such a delight to talk to. She was so excited. She's like, nobody's ever interviewed me for anything like this before. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry that it took me this long. You've been in the back of my mind for 2 years. So she was just absolutely a delight to talk to. And of course, Amanda, when I spoke to her yesterday, also same thing, you know, like anytime you talk to anybody about Nancy Fraley, they light up because Nancy,
Yeah.
and I did a story about Nancy Fraley for Whiskey Magazine that just came out in the current issue as well.
Oh, did you? I
Okay.
want to see that. So there's been multiple times that Nancy and I have had a date on the calendar for her to come on to Women of Whiskeys. And it's either, you know, we had, believe it or not, in like 1 year, we had like 3 deaths in the family. And then she had like a
That was my
conflict with her
2023.
schedule. Yeah. So it was just like one time after one of us was canceling, and we both kind of, it's probably been a good 6 months since we've even talked about it. Because she
Nancy
took
is
off,
awesome,
right?
but she's
She
also
got
super
so
busy.
she got so, like you said, celebrated,
Yep.
and good for her. I'll be honest, if I was that busy, Women of Whiskies channel would be on the bottom of my list.
Yeah.
We just
And
got to
she's
bug her
so-
again.
She's so involved in the Whiskey Tube community anyway that she still comes back on and she comes into chat and she's just so down to
Yeah.
earth. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's fantastic. And I love talking. I think the last time I sat down with her, we talked about records for 45 minutes straight.
I do recall that she's very into music, so that
Mhm.
Yes.
that's pretty cool.
She's a very talented musician. That's another one of the things that we talk about pretty frequently because my son, my oldest son, is actually at the Governor's School for the Arts right now for jazz drums.
Oh.
It's a prestigious program here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky that he had to do 2 rounds of auditions to get into this.
Mhm.
And he
Wow.
was living at the University of Kentucky in the dorm for 3 weeks doing this intensive program. So Nancy and I always talk about, you know, all the different musical things that he's doing and that she's doing. And she's just a really fun, well-rounded person.
She's a guitarist, right?
I think mostly bass, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
But yes, she
Yeah.
plays stringed instruments.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So you said that article that you wrote is in the current issue. So I don't have
Of
the
Whiskey
current
Magazine, which
Of
it's
Whiskey,
out
yeah.
in the so Whiskey Magazine comes out in the UK first, and then 30 days later it'll come out in the United States. So I don't think it's out in the United States yet. I'm trying to see if I have one down here. I believe, yep, this is it. So you can see
Let's see.
Nancy the Nose
There
Fraley
we go.
Oh
in
yeah.
Whiskey Magazine.
Oh, yep, I see it. Yep, Nancy the Nose.
And this is issue 207. So this is really exciting stuff. I've also got one in here about the things that are being done to protect the white oak species in the United States, because obviously that's a big part of our identity as American whiskey, is white oak. But there's Nancy.
There she is. Yep. I feel like I've seen that.
I'm a little slow on the draw with that solo there.
There we go. Bring that back up.
Oh yeah, let me get back to this page here, and then I'll.
Okay.
Sorry, I lost my. There we go.
All right. Yes, I love that.
Nancy. She is great.
And then Josh Fritz was asking, isn't she a lawyer as well, or was one?
I didn't realize.
So I think that if I'm remembering correctly, it's been a little while since I did this story and talked to her, but I think that she had gone through all of that training and like worked with lawyers, but maybe did not become a lawyer herself, if I'm remembering correctly. But she's the best person to ask that question. I know she does have, I believe her undergraduate studies were in Buddhism. So it's a long way from whiskey, but it makes sense because like my undergraduate, I double majored in English and philosophy. So like my friend Sailor Guevara said it best recently that people like us who are in whiskey, it's like the island of misfit toys. All just like we have these like just crazy backgrounds and things that don't make sense or shouldn't make sense, but somehow it all makes sense.
I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty
Well,
funny.
I feel like, you're writing about it, so that makes a lot of sense, the English part. And I did watch actually some of you have a YouTube video with, I think it's the Whiskey Magazine, of a cigar and whiskey pairing.
Yeah, the one that I did with Jody Filiatru from Heaven Hill.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that in the fall of 23.
Okay.
And that was something Jody and I had been talking about doing that for literally years, like 4, 5, 6.
Wow.
Every time we saw each other, yeah, we got to do this. We got to do this. We got to make this happen. And so we ended up being able to just on the fly, like the camera crew was in town from Scotland and they had been out filming at Maker's Mark all day. And they were like, hey, what should we've got a few hours this afternoon. Is there anything, on your wish list that you want to get done? I was like, absolutely. And so I
Actually.
rallied the troops, got everybody there, and we shot this video, and it's great. It's had over 10,000 views at this point, and
Wow.
it's really, I think it really resonates with people. And then, from that, I recently did a whiskey and cigar pairing event at Heaven Hill
Oh my
um,
gosh.
just last month, and it was fabulous. They did like a sit down dinner, and then they had a tent outside, and we went out and did the whiskey and cigar pairing in the tent after dinner, and it was
Wow.
absolutely a lovely, lovely evening.
So I'm a Heaven Hill fangirl. That
Awesome.
is me. So I think I would have died and gone to heaven to be there for that.
Well,
I am.
hopefully we'll be able to do it again. I mean, it
Yeah,
was very
I would love to
popular.
go to that.
It seemed to be very well received. All the feedback that we've gotten on the event has been really strong and positive. And they're going to start doing. They have started doing whiskey and cigar pairing experiences that you can go and visit Heaven Hill and do this. So I think all the ones that they had originally scheduled sold out pretty fast, and then they were going to try to tweak some things and then kind of bring it back at the end of the summer. So depending on when you're going to be there, that may be something that you'll be able to do.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be amazing. Well, and it's like, if I find something I really want to go to, I'm very lucky because in my other life, I own a company and we have our supplies hooked up to a travel card. So I pretty much can travel for free. And so I'm like, I will zip down there, spend a night, do it, but it's got to be something I really want to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so,
You should
but I
definitely do that.
remember in the class so this woman starts her class off with, okay, here's my story. Worked in a liquor store, did this, that, and the other. And then when we she starts talking about us lighting the cigars. She's like, and we have a longest ash contest and I always win. And about 10 minutes later, her ash fell.
Yep.
And everybody went.
She wins in the video.
But I will say it was impressive because we were sitting stationary. So she's walking around and she's talking with her hands and not even paying attention to the cigar in her hand. So, I
Right.
mean, we kind of had the advantage.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. A little bit.
there's that.
No, I always wait a little while to announce the long ash competition. That way I get like that competitive edge.
Yeah. You're in the know. You've got the head start.
We
Exactly.
think alike.
Yeah, I like it.
And I want to
So,
say that
go on.
I don't remember what we paired that with. I think it was
So my
Makers.
typical lineup, and I think on the last day I had to, but you were at the 10 a.m. So that was going to be the Friday.
I was the first, yeah, the Friday.
But my typical lineup is Maker's Mark, Jim Beam Black, and Four Roses Yellow Label.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Did we have maybe we had to do Buffalo Trace instead of the Jim Beam Black this year? I can't remember.
I think we had the Jim Beam Black.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my typical lineup. And the reason I do that is because you want to have a wide variety of mash bills to choose from. Because number one, like one of the things that I do not do is I don't say you should like this cigar with this whiskey. I teach a methodology, right? So I teach people how to evaluate what they are experiencing, instead of saying, this particular tobacco goes really well with this particular mash bill or whatever. So it's a lot more approachable, I think, to people when you say, I want to help you figure out what you like.
I love that.
Yeah. And that's a really important part of it because number one, people have all different sensory memories. So if, one of the words that gets picked on a lot in this industry is marzipan, which just means almond paste, which
Yeah.
is like the same as Christmas cookies. So like all three of those things mean the same thing. But if you say, oh, well, this tastes like marzipan, and I've never fucking had marzipan before. What is marzipan? Oh, am I allowed to cuss? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yes,
You're fine.
100%. Yes.
We would probably judge
I
you if you
usually
didn't.
ask first, but I forgot. I have a potty mouth.
Oh, same.
So yeah, I mean, like that's just a prime example of like how it's hard to bring people together when you're saying, well, I say it's this and I say it's that and I
Mhm.
say you should like this. It's a lot easier to say like, well, you're probably going to like something different than what I like, so let's figure that out.
Yeah.
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 And it was
Well, I
interesting
kind
in
of
the
love.
class hearing everybody else's, because she would say, what did this bring out for you in this one? Did you bring more of this out with this whiskey or that whiskey? And you would get like a majority, but you'd have this small little
Then
section
you
of
have
the
the
group that would have
outliers.
something
Yep.
totally different.
And then we
And
go
it's kind of
through
like, I've
and
always,
we always say like, oh, is that Nancy? Is Nancy
yeah,
here?
I think her ears were burning.
I
We
think
were
Maureen
just
reached out
talking
to her.
about you.
We're just yapping about you.
But
So,
officially
yeah.
inducted into the Women of Whiskey, says Sugar Kitty. They often refer to us as the shit show, so it's fine.
Yeah.
That's
But I think that I've always said, like when it comes to whiskey, you can sit here and go, I get I don't know, tannins and burnt oak, and I'm like, that smells like a wet lumber yard. Because for me, I smell and taste memories.
Yep.
And I think it's kind of like exactly what you were teaching there, right? Everybody has a different word or association for the same note.
And everybody also has different preferences. And so like one of the things that I do in my class is I say, okay, who likes this one the best? And then, 10% of the people raise their hand. Well, who likes this one the best? And like 80% will raise their hand. And okay, who likes the third one the best? And then another 10% will raise their hand. So you do like you said, you get that kind of consensus, but there are always those outliers because people have different sensory memories. People have different, preferences. Some people like spicy, some people like sweet. So it really just it's all a matter of helping people get to their personal destination, instead of saying like, okay, well, this is the answer, I'm going to help you get to the answer. Everybody has a different answer.
Yeah.
Yes.
I kind of love that you give that approach because like I'm not a cigar, I don't smoke, but like just with whiskey, I feel like, that's very much a thing of, oh, these are the, this is the better or whatever. And it's like, I don't know, we all have our different preferences. And, there's some things somebody's not gonna like. I am not a rye drinker. I have tried many ryes because people are convinced they can convince me to like it. And it's like, we all have our different taste buds.
Now I want to,
Oh, no.
Everyone has that response to her, and we've all tried.
I've turned so many people. Like I have a friend who swore that she hated rye. She's from Michigan, and so the one that turned her around is one of my favorites. It's Tamworth Chakora rye. And they use AC Hazlitt rye. So there are a lot of rye whiskeys out there that are using pedigree grains. So they're different than a common rye grain. They have different flavor profiles. And gosh, I wish Nancy was on here with us now because she blends is another one of my favorites, which is Still Austin, the artist rye, which is Brazetto rye. So there are a lot of different rye whiskeys on the market now that are being made with different. I've got one right here. This is Michigan Rosen. I think
there we go.
This is Michigan Rosen rye from South Manitou Island. This is a 6-month sample. I made by Mammoth Distilling, and so I
love Mammoth.
A couple of years ago and visited South Manitou Island where they were reviving this Rosen rye. Rose and rye also being used at Stolen Wolf. They actually have finally now an aged rose and rye whiskey in bottles. They started their project a little bit earlier. And so it's really exciting to see all of these different pedigreed grain varietals that are kind of changing the game, especially for a lot of these smaller producers, as far as being able to push the flavor envelope in what they're able to produce. So,
and you said it was that mammoth was what? I'm
so
sorry.
the mammoth is rose and rye.
Rose and rye.
That is not in bottles yet. I just have a sample that they pulled for me
I
since
just wanted to look it up. I wanted to look up rose and rye.
Well, Stolen Wolf also has a rose and rye that is bottled and on the market now. Because they're gonna be getting more and more of that as the years go on. Mammoth, I think, is still probably a couple years away from being in the bottle. Mammoth does have the woolly rye, which is made with, I cannot remember. Oh yes, yes indeed. Brazetto rye is what we do now at Still Austin. It's really fruity with a lot of orchard fruit notes. So if you haven't tried any of those rye whiskeys that have those different pedigreed grains, that would be a starting point for you. So the Still Austin, the artist, is one of my favorites, and then the Tamworth Chakora rye is probably one of my favorite rye whiskeys ever made.
Yeah, because I mean, I've had like some malted rye, immersive rye from California. So I have had like some just standard ryes.
Sure.
I think the only one I have actually liked is in New Holland.
Malted rye, I feel like, is almost a whole different category.
It was
which
different.
It's fabulous, but it's completely different. So like even trying something with some of those different rye grains, rye varietals is
so now do you know if any of the Still Austins that they had at NOLA were one of those? I had some amazing.
They had the artist. They had the artist there. Yeah.
I thought that was the one that I had, because I tried some things there that I had never had from Still Austin, and they were amazing.
Yeah, Still Austin's doing really great work. I mean, and I think that Nancy has a lot to do with that, because obviously, you can make good whiskey, but putting the finishing touches, the finesse on those the palette that you're working with, I guess.
I was telling I was telling someone the other day, it's like I was convinced that I didn't like any wheaters. I didn't like anything wheat. Didn't like it. They were all terrible. And what I've come to realize, especially after talking with different blenders and trying different things, that it's not that I don't like wheat. It's you have to balance it. It's, for what I'm understanding, for me, I can pull that wheat out if it's not balanced just right. Because I've had some amazing wheaters now. It's just all in how it's blended.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, there's so many stylistic choices that go in every part of the process that impact what ends up in that bottle. Every one of those choices can completely change the flavor profile. And it's really amazing, with all the things that I've tried over the last 12 years that I've been doing this. I think that was one of your original questions that I haven't gotten to answering it. The last 12 years that I've been doing this, going on 13 years, I think.
Awesome.
There's some really amazing stuff out there. It's a really wonderful time to be a whiskey geek right now, especially if you just want to be able to try something different all the time.
I'm very jealous of your guys's. I've had my company now for 11 years, and I tell you, yours is way more fun than mine. So
Heard.
Can't even imagine.
Well, I mean, I'm just jealous of. I live in Utah. Tasting your whiskey at a liquor store is not a thing. Like you were saying, how you began, and they're having all these tastings, and I'm just like, when I went to Vegas to a liquor store, and they were like, "Oh, do you want to try this?" I was like looking around, like, Is this a trick? Like, am I going to be arrested if I say yes? Like, I don't.
Yeah,
what is this?
Utah. I haven't been to Utah. It seems like a beautiful place.
It's beautiful.
I did just unfortunately finish watching a TV show that was shot there in Utah, and it seems like a pretty wild place.
It's so funny.
I feel like there are different representations. I live in
Salt Lake. Where you're at
the university.
As well.
It's different.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful. It's worth a visit. I'd say that. Like for national parks, we've got 5.
My husband's a rock climber, and he has been to Zion and St. George, Utah, and he really loves it. Yeah, Zion is beautiful. He's talked about how beautiful it is.
So the thing about Adriana that you may not know, she has another whiskey channel called Whiskey Mountains, and she goes hiking and does whiskey reviews while in these beautiful mountains.
It's the perk of Utah.
Yeah, so it's pretty fun.
It's the plus side of I moved here. I'm not a native.
Okay.
To clarify certain stereotypes.
I live in Idaho and I am a native, but I came back. I didn't stay here the whole time. But it is quite interesting when I meet someone and first thing they ask me is, "Are you native?" Because they're very protective. And I said, "Yeah, I was born in Northern Idaho." And they say, "Oh, I'm going to go do this and that." And I'm like, I'm going to go sit on my back patio and I said, "I'm not everybody's cup of tea. So I'm going to have a whiskey and a cigar out back by the fire pit." And they're like, "You do? Oh, you're going to sit with your husband?" Nope. And it's interesting because these women here will go fishing and hunting and climbing, but it's such an odd concept of smoking cigars or drinking whiskey, especially for the gentlemen. They'll come up and they'll be like, "Is that whiskey? With nothing in it?"
Yeah.
But I mean, we don't get that as much in Kentucky. I think it's probably a little bit more normalized for women to drink. Although, I mean, I definitely have been typecast in some situations, which is quite humorous. But, especially, with cigars, that's one of those things that, women, I feel like men don't expect that, and then they have to almost fetishize it a little bit.
Really? You think so?
It can get a little weird sometimes, but I
mean, speaking of which, look at Joseph here. I mean, no, I think cigars is a different thing. I think people are getting more accepting of women having whiskey, and it is a foreign concept, especially now that cigarettes are phasing their way out and everybody's vaping. To actually see a woman with not a dainty little cigar, but a good sized cigar that's it's
not a Swisher Sweet.
It's confusing.
Yeah.
It's actually
unless you're in Utah, in which case whiskey is weird too.
Yeah. I don't think it's the men that categorize it. I think it's other women, at least here where I am.
I think it's both. I think it's just full society kind of thing. Yeah.
Internalized misogyny is definitely a thing.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So Nancy says, "Ugh, I know what you mean about people assuming women don't or won't smoke. Started a pipe 36 years ago and cigars 25 years ago." Okay, Nancy, I love that so much because my husband's trying to get me to smoke a pipe with him. And I'm like, I'm already drinking whiskey, smoking cigars. Do I need another vice? Really? Do I? Because
kind of the same vice.
One of the things that I really love. So Mike Veach was a pipe smoker when I met him, and I got him into cigars, and then he and I started doing the whiskey and cigar stuff together. But I love riding around in his Jeep. I actually own his Jeep now. But when we first started hanging out, we would ride around the Jeep and he's smoking his pipe while we're riding around the Jeep, and his Jeep still smells like pipe smoke. I've owned it for 3 or 4 years now, and it's still
a great scent. I love that.
It's great. And so going and buying estate pipes, there's so many cool pipes that's a cool idea. sold at estate sales and stuff like that. And they're, you know, a lot of people have this huge pipe collection and they might use one or two of them regularly. So there are these just absolutely beautiful, historic, beautifully made pipes that you can get at an estate sale that have barely been used. And so that's a kind of cool thing to find from time to time. So I've got a nice little collection going for my husband here.
It's funny because her husband has been teaching my husband how to smoke a pipe, mainly because my husband was getting into cigars, and I was like, no, I like the smell of pipe, not cigars. Can you get into pipes? And he tried it and he just couldn't figure it out. I was like,
that's legit.
They smell so good.
Yeah. And pipe tobacco is much cheaper than cigars.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I just know I like the smell. So,
but it's funny because my household, my husband and I, we're empty nesters
is
now.
it Father's Day this weekend?
Yeah.
I gotta go get some pipe tobacco.
Oh, get on it. Here's a reminder.
We don't do anything halfway. You know, we started out buying some whiskey and now we've got a whiskey bar. We're building a cigar bar in our home, not like public. But, you know, we don't do anything halfway. And then, so we've got 4 humidors. And so now my husband started pipes. Now we've got this big display of tobacco and we've got, he's getting those old estate pipes and you know what? It just wouldn't be us if we weren't that way. I mean, I have a rule.
Go all the way.
I love purses. If I buy an expensive purse, which I always buy them used because I'm cheap, I have to sell one. And so I was thinking, what if we did every time you buy an estate pipe, you have to sell one?
Yes.
Is this why Nick was given so much pipe tobacco last time we were there?
I know. Will just stocks Nick up.
Yeah, I definitely have. We go to a lot of estate sales, and so like I have some different collections. I collect physical media, so I've got records, CDs, things like that, stereo equipment, but also like purses. I've had the last several years, a lot of people have given me like cleaning out their closet, like, oh, here, I know this will be right up your alley. So like the purse that I have right now is like a vintage Coach made in the USA from the 90s. That's
when they were good quality.
Yeah, I mean they don't make it. I sound so old right now. They don't make them like they used to.
Back in my day, it held up.
Exactly. Those things were made to last. So like there's basically nothing at a store that I want. I want all the old things.
I love that y'all are all about the purses, and I'm a book bag fiend. And Nick is always like, you don't need another book bag. And I'm like, but this is perfect for like a day hike that's only a couple hours, whereas this one's perfect for like longer. And this one's just cool. I just want it because it's cool.
I mean, one of my best finds ever that I still like thank my lucky stars that I got this lucky. I got a Coach briefcase made in the USA at a secondhand shop in California for $20.
Hell yes.
And I still carry that thing. So I've got my Coach briefcase, I've got my vintage Coach purse, and I have never shopped inside a Coach store.
No, you can't. You have to buy them used because people, they're like, I can't have next season's, or I don't know.
Oh, right. Yeah. The previous.
So Nancy, I want to say, so Nancy says, I sheepishly have to admit that I really prefer a pipe over a cigar. I don't feel bad the next day. And also you can control the amount of tobacco you want without feeling wasteful.
You don't have to be sheepish about that. That's like a legit preference.
Yeah. It really
I feel like you should be proud of that. Loud and proud.
I'm intrigued by the thought of a pipe. I can't quite get myself to make the jump yet. But I'm intrigued because I can set it down. Like when you're having a cigar, you feel like you need to sit there and relax and enjoy the whole thing. Whereas a pipe, if I need to go take care of something, I can set it down and come back to it. That appeals to me. I don't know if I want to start another thing.
Well, I will tell you the hack that my husband came up with while he's been working on the Jeep in the garage when he has his like rubber gloves on and all of his like grease all over it. So
can I ask what year the Jeep is?
It's a 99. So this is the Jeep that Mike Veach bought in 1998 when he became an archivist at United Distillers. So it's like
I love it.
literally a historic vehicle, like literally.
That's
love
cool.
So, but my husband's been doing, like, he just rebuilt the exhaust and changed the head gasket and a whole bunch of other stuff. And so, like, when he's out there doing that, I have a copper stinky ashtray. Do you know what a stinky ashtray is?
Is that the one that you put
Isn't that all ashtrays?
Bowl, it's like the bowl on a
Mhm.
pedestal, and it's got the little like spots to put your cigar.
Yeah, we have one out there.
He has that on top of a cabinet out there, and he'll rest his cigar on it. So while his hands are dirty, he'll just walk over and go and just puff.
That's
puff,
genius.
Yeah.
Oh, that's genius.
So you can set your cigar down if you really want to. You don't have to touch it.
Also, pro tip as a constant glove wearer: if he gets a bigger pair of gloves that he can put on top of the other ones, then he can pick up whatever that he wants to keep clean. So if he struggles to get to it, he can just get a bigger pair and put that over.
Hey.
That's what I do to touch my phone when I need to, but I'm not supposed to with the current gloves I'm wearing.
So, you may not
Nancy
know
was
this, but
asking-
Adriana's a research scientist, so she wears gloves all the time.
Yeah, different kinds of gloves.
Wants to know what we're drinking tonight. Okay, so I guess I better get something out. So,
oh my gosh,
if we're going with
like we only had water,
female whiskey makers tonight, I just came to possess these guys, Milam and Green. So they did a really interesting experiment where they distilled these in Kentucky, and then they aged this one in Kentucky. There we go.
Just does not want to let us see it.
Texas. And so they were distilled on the same day, barreled on the same day. Some of them were put into a rick house in Kentucky. Some of them were driven to Texas, put in a rick house. And so it's really interesting because, we really don't have a whole lot of information about the differences in how different climates impact the maturation of whiskey.
Yeah.
And that's something that Nancy probably knows more about than most people in the industry. And but as far as quantitative data, there's not a whole lot of that out there. So I'm going to try this whiskey. Oh, the story of how I managed to procure Mike's Jeep. I just asked him if he wanted to sell it to me and been driving it. Because we were working on a project together, and he kept asking me to pick him up. And finally I was like, is everything okay with the Jeep? Do I need to get Jordan over here to look at it? Or he's like, no, I just don't drive it anymore. I probably need to sell it. And I was like, well, how much do you want for it? And so I ended up buying it because it was parked in his garage taking up space, and he wasn't driving it anymore. He and Rosemary pretty much go everywhere together. So Rosemary is driving most of the time anyway.
Okay.
I gave up my Jeep last year, and I miss it all the time. So as soon as you said Jeep, I was just like, I need to know.
It's been a lot of fun to have. It's nice to drive with the top down in the summertime, and it's been a nice project for my husband to work on.
The problem was it was my daily driver in Utah winters, and the back window was always broken. It had all kinds of issues. So it was very cold. That was one of the many problems, but I love that Jeep. It was amazing.
Yeah.
We had to take a tour of the Jeep when we went to go visit her.
Yeah. It was like impossible not to get to know him. Like he had a name. He was a personality. So I was the weirdo at the dealership who was just like sobbing because I had to say bye to my Jeep.
I sobbed when my first car, I had that car for like 9 years, and it was like such an awesome, like I still have dreams about that car. And like after I had babies and it like like the transmission went out, and it was parked in my driveway for a long time, and I was gonna fix it, and then finally I was just like, I gotta let this go. When the tow truck came, like I sobbed. Sobbed like a baby.
Yep. That was me.
Adriana, what are you drinking? We only talked about Maggie's drink. What are you drinking?
Oh, I was having, so I started, for once, I have not had any Knob Creek tonight.
That looks like an Elijah Craig.
A little pat on the, I thought this was already open, and then I made a bunch of noise.
Elijah Craig.
It's an ECBP. It was the lowest proof one I could find because I wanted to bump up from 100. So it's the B521.
Okay.
And then I was gonna switch to a weeder because I love weeders.
Well, I know you do.
Mike and Rosemary are such a cute couple. They're just
I love
fabulous.
it.
We were out at Kentucky Artisan Distillery last week because Mike Veach and Bill Thomas from Jack Rose in Washington, D.C. made a whiskey together, and it finally was bottled last week. So it's going to be called Mountain Run, and it's made with hickory cane corn, which is the kind of corn that Mike Veach's uncle used to grow on his farm and make moonshine from. And
Is there a big difference?
yeah, I mean, white corn absolutely is very different in a mash bill from like a standard yellow dent corn. Different varietals of corn are like all those different colors correspond with different flavor notes. And so it's that's one of the classes. I'm surprised you didn't take my other class at the New Orleans Bourbon Festival. I did a class about pedigreed grains and whiskey.
Yes. Actually, my husband took it. There was something at the exact same time that I had to decide. Was it? It was
You kinda
there was
split
a,
it?
there, yeah, there was a woman teaching it, and I just can't remember if it was the Old Elk or the Empire. I don't remember, but
Both great classes.
but I know that the taste and the smell and all that is different. But as far as the maturation and stuff, is that completely different as well? Do you know?
Everything is completely different.
Okay.
And also, I mean, it has to do with climate and it has to do with a lot of different things. So there are a lot of different factors. And again, this is something that Nancy can speak much more authoritatively than I can. Oh, yes, hickory cane corn. Yes, indeedy. And so that's that Fountain Run is going to be available at the Jack Rose. They've got a little retail shop there as well. So I assume that's where it's going to be available. I actually haven't followed up with Bill on that, and I need to do that.
So is that going to be like a 100% corn whiskey, or is that the mash bill will have
So
other?
I can't remember the mash bill off the top of my head, but it's corn, rye, and there are two different kinds of barley. So there's distiller's malt, and then he did like I think 1 or 2% chocolate malt as well.
Okay.
So it's unique. He designed the mash bill. We've been like I was there with him when it was being distilled, when it was being fermented, when it was being distilled. We went and visited those barrels. There are 4 barrels. We thieved from them once a year, and to track the maturation and everything. And so it's going to be a really great release.
That's awesome.
I love some of these new things where people are really starting to play with different things, and you're seeing these smaller craft distilleries come up, and they're really, now I know it's not a bourbon, it's not American whiskey, but when we went to Ireland and we went to Two Stacks and seeing the amazing things that they're doing just with playing with different finishes, I just thought was, and I love the creativity that's coming out now that, it's like everybody just broke loose.
Yeah. Well, I also feel like it's kind of like, I don't know, ballsy in a way of like, you just kind of have to guess, you have an idea of what these different things, their influences, but it's not like you can sit there and be like, okay, I'm going to make one with 1%, one with 2%, one with 5%, like you can't do a huge range. You have to kind of guesstimate what will be some good mixes and then wait for years and hope for the best. Like
there are some brands that are doing that kind of geekery. Chattanooga whiskey is one of those ones where they're just kind of throwing everything at the wall to see what'll stick. A lot of the distilleries in Texas kind of started off that way, where they're like, we have no idea what's going to be good in Texas. So we're just going to try a whole bunch of different stuff and see what works. Balcones recently kind of dropped their entire bourbon production, and they're focusing on American single malt corn whiskey, a little bit of rye whiskey, but they're really focused. They leaned in hard to that American single malt, and they won World Whiskies Awards for their American single malt. They're doing a really great job of it. But it's interesting to see because there are so many places where you just don't know if you start a distillery in like a Joseph Magnus pipe blend. I think that
Pipeline.
um,
Right.
there are a lot of places like when you start a distillery in like Idaho or Utah, like you don't
Mhm.
know what that climate is going to do to all
Right.
these different
Oh,
things.
I know what our distilleries here.
Well,
They're
well,
they're all, well, when you're new and you're young, what do you start out with? You usually start out with corn.
Hmm.
And so we have a lot of corn whiskey. We have a lot of very young corn whiskey that is blended with pretty much nothing. And that's what we have in Idaho right now.
Interesting.
yeah.
Well,
Well,
I mean, and that's an opportunity, right? Because there are
Absolutely.
opportunities to bring in different
Yeah.
varietals of
You need
corn.
to start sourcing and kind of getting, yeah.
Yeah, there are lots of different things that you can do. And, sourcing is one of the things that I think a lot of distilleries are doing really well, especially when
Hmm.
they're doing blends of multiple different states, because that
Hmm.
gives you a lot broader of a flavor palette to choose from. And so we're
mhm.
seeing brands like Old Elk and, you know, Barrel Craft Spirits and Pursuit Spirits. All these folks are taking barrels from multiple different locations, and all those different characteristics are
Yeah.
kind of, creating this whole new flavor.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
interesting to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I think
interesting.
it just blows my mind because like I'm a scientist, and so to me it's like, well, you want your controls and you want to like be able to test out small
I
things
know.
before
And you
moving
can
on
do
to
that
just
to a certain
barreling.
extent, but when you're talking about,
Yeah.
you know, uncontrolled biological and chemical reactions,
Hmm.
it's a little bit harder to
Yeah.
get that data, even if you control everything
Right.
like
Yeah,
super.
you can try and
You
right.
can
Yeah.
try, but you can't really get that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No. And like that's like I admire it because it just seems like so nerve-wracking to me.
Oh yeah,
Like
for
for
sure.
Yeah.
immediately anxiety to me, and then people are just going in like Nancy Frey, like going in
But
and
at the
just
same
being like,
time,
this will work.
one thing that's pretty universal is if you start off with high quality inputs, then
Hmm.
you're pretty likely to get some high quality outputs, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, one of the things that they've said for years and years in Kentucky is if you no amount of age can fix a bad distillate. And that's something,
Yeah.
like if you
Yeah.
Yeah.
have a really good distillate,
Yeah.
it might go in a funky direction, but it's probably not going to end up bad, right?
Right. Right. Or something you could blend and make work kind of thing.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's funny because like all the changes right now that are going on, blenders are moving from place to place and distillers are starting new things. And I feel like there's this massive shift. And um, ironically, I was saying earlier that I don't care for, or I didn't think I cared for wheat. And what's her name? Madeline Maxon was at NOLA, and she brought some of the things that they're balancing that wheat out, and they're adding more wheat, little less rye. Amazing stuff. And we were talking. She was, oh, I'd love to come on and talk about this. I'm excited because everybody knew I thought I hated wheat, and now I don't. And then there was that whole shift at Old Elk, and so it's kind of like we talk about here, the industry that I work in outside of here. People don't really leave; they just shift. So there's been like 4 people recently that have made a shift, and I'm so interested to see where they land.
Mm.
So my whole thing about that was you were talking about starting with good product and blending. And one thing I kind of took away from all of that was you can start with I think there's 2 things that can ruin. I was trying to figure out how to say it. There's 2 things that can ruin it: what you're starting with or who's blending it. I think, in my opinion, those are the 2 fastest things that can ruin something. It can get better with age. It can get better with this or that. But I think those are the 2 main properties, right? Or a bad cigar. Bad cigar could ruin it too. I mean,
Well, I can tell the story about the one thing that can ruin a good cigar. Do you remember when I told that story in the
I
class?
do. You should definitely tell it.
So I was interviewing Jose Blanco many, many years ago about something completely unrelated. And halfway through the conversation, he goes, Maggie, what's the one thing that can ruin a good cigar? And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know, bad cut, bad light, bad roll. And I was like, you know what? I'm never going to be able to say anything remotely intelligent sounding to Jose Blanco. So just say, I don't know. So I said, I don't know, Jose. What is the one thing that can ruin a good cigar? And he said, smoking it next to an asshole. And I think very
Yeah.
much whiskey is the same way, like
Yes.
people ask me all the time, like, oh, I bet you have bad whiskey all the time. I'm like, not in a long time, actually. Like I judge a lot of spirits competitions, and once in a blue moon, we'll get a faulty product that's been entered, but that's becoming exceedingly rare. So for the most part, like the things that are going into bottles are very well done, very thoughtfully done. And yeah, there's some that are better than others, but for the most part, everything's pretty good,
Yeah.
like it's really rare that I have a bad product anymore. But the one thing that could ruin that experience is drinking with the wrong person, drinking it with an asshole. So
I was about to say, so building on that, is it partly that like you enjoy the people you're getting to judge with kind of thing, and so it's just an enjoyable experience?
So for the
I mean, you have to stay somewhat
part of it,
objective.
like there may be a little bit of an element to that. Like I am pretty much like all down to business when it comes to judging. But Mike Veach wrote a really great blog post. I manage his blog, so that's I built and I manage his blog. But one of the blog posts that he had many years ago was the ephemeral nature of tasting whiskey. And he's absolutely right. Like if you come home and you're having a shitty day, don't make that the day you pour your best whiskey, because it's not gonna be very good, right? Or if you're out celebrating, having a great time with your friends, and you get a well bourbon, that's going to be the best bourbon that you've ever had.
Yes, absolutely.
Your frame of mind absolutely matters when you're doing this, when you're for sure when you're experiencing it. When you're evaluating it, I feel like that's a slightly different scenario altogether.
Right. You're putting yourself in a zone to separate. Yeah. Well, it's funny because like I've got like obviously Utah is limited in amount of whiskeys we have on the shelf, but what we do have is MSRP, so I can at least take that.
Same with
but
Idaho.
like and a couple of like I've gotten to go to some of these meetups, and they have got bottle shares, and so I get to try other whiskeys that I've heard about and never gotten to try, kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try this, and I'm gonna like remember. But I'm also getting to meet all these people that I've seen in chats, and I'm like all excited. So then I'm just like, it's all delicious because I'm having such a great night. See people, unless something's like I will never forget that RD1 that's finished in Amburana cask that I tried at Pours in the Park. It's a green label, and it just tastes almost like it's like fake flavored. It's so cinnamon toast crunch.
I do not like it.
So I
like the French oak
on Sunday, and I was like, enough with the goddamn Amburana.
It's like, the one thing I like, everything else I'm like, I just remember enjoying myself and it was good. But that one thing is the only thing that I'm like, I just remember sipping it and being like, what is happening?
And that
I love their French oak though.
That was actually a conversation, and they were very receptive. They were actually very receptive to hearing that. I was like, guys, like, I just feel so bad when, I'm judging a blind competition and there's something with Amburana in there and it's like, Amburana! And I'm like, can we just all tone it down? Like dunk the Amburana in there and take it out.
Right. Just do like a quick pass through.
Amburana as you need.
Yeah. It feels like you just need the smallest touch of it, kind of
little
thing.
dab will do you.
Yeah. So, I don't know how long that was, but
I remember that because we had the French oak and we had the green label, and Will loved the green. I can't drink it. We have both. Well, we had both. I drank all the French oak, but it's which, by the way, we were talking about what we were drinking. I'm drinking the Wild Turkey 101 8-year.
Excellent choice.
I actually started out with the Starlight Double Oak, the Irene Tan pick.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
that is what my dog knocked over with his cone of shame.
Oh.
Of course. Of course.
Well, I love wild turkey, and I went probably a couple years without trying it because I try so many different things all the time,
Sure.
Mhm.
And I was doing a story and they had sent me a bottle, and I was sitting there drinking. I was like, man, this is good. Like,
Solid.
it's
Yeah.
so good. And I just forget about it. Like, I know that they are obviously making really excellent whiskey,
Right.
but then I forget how good it is until I try it again. I'm like, this is so good.
When you're exploring so many, yeah.
Well, and
real
I
quick,
think like the last two releases, especially, they did the anniversary, which, oh my gosh, if I just wish that I would have, because in Idaho, it's like Utah, we pay SRP. However, it's like they call it a treasure hunt. You don't know where it's going to be or when they're going to put it out, and they hide it. It's ridiculous.
That's hilarious,
so you have to hunt to find the treasure in Idaho. But I did end up, I think I had two of them and they're gone. And I really wish I would have saved a little because that anniversary was so good. And then this 8-year, I want to say we paid $50 for it here. I've picked up 5 because if this stuck around, this would be one of my daily drinkers. It's my daily drinker started out with Eagle Rare when you could buy it anywhere you wanted for $27.
Right.
And that's awful that God did that to me. But now it's, I must have expensive taste.
The cross we must bear. I'm keeping Tim Cornet's message up as a reminder for myself. Only because we were talking about meeting people. And Tim Cornet is one of the ones I got to meet at Pours in the Park and just forget all the whiskey we were drinking because he and I both are connected to this cause that I made a banner for. There it is. August 2nd.
Don't forget.
On Whiskey Mountains, I will be doing my yearly Alzheimer's fundraiser. It is always amazing. So that is coming up in about 2 months. In the past 4 years on WhiskeyTube, we have raised over $50,000 for the Alzheimer's Association. This is what I work in. This is what I very much dedicated to. I lost my grandfather to it. And so it's super cool to me that the WhiskeyTube community has just really made it possible to make a difference for it. So the links are in the description, but that will be coming up in the very beginning of August. And I want to throw that out there.
Well, thank you for doing that. I lost my grandmother to Alzheimer's, and that is a really terrible way to go.
I think it affects so many of us. I'm so sorry about your grandma. And it's kind of one of the worst ways because you lose the person and the person loses themselves and who they knew before they ever,
they
really
call it the long goodbye. Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's just.
So Maggie, what you might not know is Adriana does more than just raise money for Alzheimer's, ending Alzheimer's. That's our big joke this year is we keep saying we're raising money for Alzheimer's, but it's actually ending Alzheimer's. Not just Adriana, that is what she's dedicated her life to. She is a research scientist looking for a cure for Alzheimer's.
Thank you. I need that because apparently it's genetic.
Yeah, there is a genetic component. There is also a large lifestyle component to it, though, too.
That really scares me because my grandma was my grandma was healthy as a horse. And that's why she lived so long. She was 96.
Oh, man. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's a long. How long did she have the disease?
About 10 years, we think.
Yeah, that's a good long while kind of thing. It's one of those now it's just stretched
was
out.
In my class.
That's my husband. I told you he took your class.
Awesome.
He's the one.
Yeah, we can talk about bringing back grains. There's actually another really cool project going on right now in Virginia. Shelley Sakier, who works for Reservoir Distillery, is doing a project with pedigreed wheats. Actually, no, it's all different pedigreed grains. I'm talking to her about wheat. That's why that That's why my brain
Yeah.
went there.
Yeah.
But she's got a bunch of different types of corn that she's working on. She's got some wheat that she's working on. She's working on a bunch of different things and bringing those back. She's actually doing that in conjunction with the James B. Beam Institute in Kentucky. And Lisa Wicker is one of the people who's advising her on that project. So it's a really cool project. They're actually distilling these things, and they're trying to figure out what those differences actually are, and like actually quantify the great scientific research trying to quantify that. And so that's something that I'm really excited about. She's been doing that for a couple of years. She won an award from ADI maybe recently for this work that she's doing. So it's really exciting that there are a handful of people in the country. Gary Heinegardner is one of the other ones who is really into. He's a former Peace Corps agronomist. I've got a story about him coming out in I can't remember what I want to say, American Whiskey Magazine. Maybe it's Artisan to Spirit. I think it's American Whiskey Magazine. About all the different, he's really into different varietals of corn, and he actually works with corn farmers in Mexico who are who have these heirloom varietals of corn, and then they're working on breeding different characteristics into it that might make it more suitable for better tasting whiskey. So it's really interesting, the work that a lot of people are doing with these grains. And it's really exciting because, we just have no idea what kind of whiskey is coming down the pipeline. There's going to be all kinds of new flavor profiles that we've never seen before.
I'm so excited about that. Just, we were talking about that earlier. Everybody's getting a little more outside the box. And I just think that's so awesome.
So are these are
work. It's really important work. Really when you look at a lot of the things that are going on in the world today, politically and, the climate and things like that. When I talked to Gary recently, he spent a lot of our conversation sounding the alarm bells about the fact that China owns most of the corn genetics that we're using in the United States for everything. And if China decides to stop playing ball with us, we could be fucked.
It could have an impact.
It's a pretty serious situation. And so the people who are looking at different genetics, bringing back heirloom varietals of grains and things like that, not only does that help protect us against, that sort of political problem, but also climate change, because there are a lot of things out there. When we have monocrop agriculture that's based on basically 3 crops, when you have these increasing droughts, increasing rains, increasing tornadoes, increasing flooding, things like that, if we have these 3 crops basically that our entire food system is dependent on, that's really risky as far as being able to continue to feed people and keep the country running. If we find out that one of these things that we are dependent on is not drought tolerant and we get a drought. So having all this different biodiversity is super, super important for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is, it can potentially save us from famine.
Yeah.
So, Wood Hat Spirits. That's Gary Heinegardner. Yep.
Oh, okay. That is the same person. Okay.
Yep.
Y'all are on the same page. So this is like corn strains that used to exist or no longer exist, or are just rarer.
So
like, are they trying to mimic, or are they trying to
things, right? So that's why I use the term pedigreed, because there are heirloom varietals that people have been reviving. So like Rose and Rye is an heirloom varietal. Hickory cane corn is an heirloom varietal, things like that. But then also, you can hybridize. So Widow Jane did the Baby Jane corn, And the baby Jane corn was a proprietary hybrid of two heirloom varietals. So it's no longer an heirloom at that point, but
Okay.
it's still a specific genetic code.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah, it's not an
That's
heirloom.
why that's why I used the term, because I started off writing about heirlooms and then everybody's like, well, it's not technically an heirloom,
Technically, no. Yeah.
hybrid. And so like that's why I kind of came up with, okay, it's pedigreed, because like it has a name, it has a provenance, you know, it has it has specific characteristics and things like that. So you know, Widow Jane actually was the first to have like a nationwide rollout.
I love that.
Pedigreed grain whiskey. So, you know, there's a lot of really cool stuff going on right now in the whiskey world with this. I mean, there's so many different avenues we can go down and talk about. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it can go on forever, right? So I don't know if you saw that comment that Nancy just threw out there.
I did not. I was talking.
Okay, no, I talk all day. I love listening to all this. I'm learning so much.
Yeah, Gary's awesome. Like, I feel like I could sit down and talk to Gary for like hours and hours and hours. It was such a pleasure to sit down with it. I actually visited his distillery in the fall.
And you said he's with Wood Hats?
What was it? He's the founder of Wood Hat Spirits. Yeah. And I actually, so he makes these, and you'll actually see him at conferences wearing these wooden hats. This is one of the many. But this is like a bottle topper that he turned on a lathe, and he gave us.
I love this.
I love that.
I love this so much.
Like a bottle, like it's on a cork. But that's his whole thing, is he has all these like different esoteric hobbies. And
I want to be best friend. I whittle and started to learn how to lathe during like the pandemic. I'm like. And it sounds like he does genetics.
I want to be his best friend.
I'm like, I've got a PhD in molecular biology. I'm a geneticist. Yeah. Like, does he need some contracting work?
Some of the other cool stuff that he does is, so he was in the Peace Corps doing agronomy, and then he worked for Independent Stave, and his job was to take the scraps and figure out what to do with them. And so he actually, when he built his distillery, he built it to run on, he has an outdoor like wood fired energy generator that he takes those wood chips and shovels them in there, and that heats oil, and the oil circulates in the building and like heats his still and his water for cooking and all that kind of stuff. He's like, wow. You know, and it's funny because he's like, I'm not doing this to be green. I'm doing this because like this is the way things should be done. Like he'll literally say that. Like he's not. I mean,
I'm sorry, but how much
it's a double win.
Oh, I don't know quantity wise, but like he's a few miles away from Independent Stave, and they have a lot of scrap wood that comes out of there. And that was his career when he was with Independent Stave, was to figure out who can use these scraps and for what. So, you know, I think he did a lot of the heating stuff with the scraps at Independent Stave. But also,
that's amazing.
He buys that scrap wood from them, or takes that scrap. I don't know if he's like buying it or they're giving it away because they have so much of it or whatever. But that's what he uses to generate the energy that his facility needs.
That is actually so cool. Probably one of the coolest things I've heard in a long time. Well, I hear a lot of cool things. I don't come up with them. I hear them. Yeah. But right, yeah. That is just really cool to me. Like, and so you're taking leftovers that they would have to pay to dispose of.
Yep.
You're taking those, and now you don't have to pay for your energy, and you're putting all this manual labor into it to get a better product with a very amazing story.
Absolutely.
Look, William Hall is here.
Yeah. Yeah. I've written quite a lot of notes of things
I
to
write
Google
notes
later.
I watch her doing it, and she sends them to me.
She knows.
So. Awesome.
Yeah, she knows she'll get a picture of the notes later. So
it looks like MC's been dropping some links. She just dropped the link for Gary Woodhat interview. Awesome. Thank you for doing that, M. We also have Richie dropping the Alzheimer's link, which, by the way, that is filmed here in Idaho at our house.
Yes. Yes, I will drive up to Idaho, Michelle. We're teaching Michelle geography of Idaho and Utah.
Those of you who don't know, the fundraiser, every year there are hundreds of things donated from the Whiskey Tube community that you can win. Everything from a gift card to a homemade item to a bottle I've never seen in my life. So don't miss it. And you go
there'll always be a
link.
bunch of
None of the
bottles.
money passes through her hands at all. It all goes straight to that link to it.
Very cool.
Yeah, it all goes directly to the Alzheimer's Association, which largely supports research. I'm not currently on any Alzheimer's Association grants, so this is 100% not me funding me. And I'm hoping to apply for one, and I'm very always transparent about that, but currently not on one. And they support research, but also caretakers and people who have recently been diagnosed and everything. And they're basically the best association for supporting within the United States. There's a couple in the UK also that are great that I get information from, but it's just amazing, and I love what they do, and I just love what this whiskey community does every year with it. So it's always just super cool. In the past couple of years, it's super cool. So I love that. Like, and it's always fun. I come up to Idaho, and we make a big sort of party out of it in a way. But yeah, it's what I do as my job, and I love my job. It's my dream job, so it's kind of perfect. And right now is grant funding time, so right now it's kind of crazy. But
no, it's a good time. And guys, we understand if you can't donate, a lot of us can't. That's okay. Share the link, share the knowledge. That'd be awesome. If you have something sitting around, if you're crafty, if you have a bottle, anything, if you want to donate something, just email womenofwhiskies@gmail.com. Adriana, I'll put you on that sheet. It's very much appreciated.
Yeah. That'll be awesome.
Okay, that was our soapbox.
Yeah.
With that, we are an hour and a half in. And if you want to know, so I'll tell you this about Maggie. I know that she has written amazing articles. I've read a few. Oh my goodness.
No message, just Nancy being badass.
Oh.
I'm so glad you're here, Nancy. Maggie and Nancy together. Like, Maggie's talking about Nancy, and she like summoned her into the chat.
Right? It was magical. It was magical.
Nancy has entered the room.
Yeah. Thank you so much. But what I was going to say is, I don't know. Maggie's written a lot of great articles. I've skimmed some, and I've really dove into some. I skimmed a few just because I didn't want to not know anything about her, but I've read a few just because they really struck my interest. But there's a lot of other things. She judges competitions. She teaches those cigar and whiskey pairings we were talking about. And if you're interested in having her at an event, hiring her to do a tasting, or you want to know where you can read more of her work, all her social media is linked in our description. I have found there's a lot of information on her Instagram page. It seems like is that the best way to get a hold of you?
So if you need to send me a message, there's actually a contact form on my blog, lougirl502.com. If you go to the About page, there's a contact form there, and that's really the easiest way to get in touch with me if you need to, send me a message. I try to respond to messages on social media, but sometimes they get lost in the ether. So if you send me a message and I don't respond, I'm not being stuck up. It just slipped by me. That's all it is. So if you have something that you need to speak with me about, that contact form on my blog is the best way to get me.
So I'm not ignoring you. I'm putting that in the chat. Can you tell me what that was again?
Oh, I already put it.
lougirl502.com.
Oh, see,
I already put it.
That's why I have Adriana, because she's amazing. Okay.
I finally learned to mute myself while I'm typing, so that's why you couldn't tell that I was doing it, because I, as of last week, finally learned to press the mute button.
Look at this. Everybody's sharing love here with Nancy. Look at this. All the love. Because,
That's awesome. Thank you, Nancy.
Maggie, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come hang out with us. Again, you guys, this was so awesome. Much knowledge sitting here that's untapped that we couldn't possibly pull out in an hour and a half. So
Awesome. Well, hey, if you have questions, you know how to get me. So
I love that.
Appreciate it so much.
So, Maggie, this is the point in time where we play Plinko and give away free shit. You are more than welcome to stay if you have other obligations.
It is past my bedtime.
Yeah,
y'all.
I totally and completely
I'm turning into a
understand.
pumpkin. I had a big
I
day.
know that we were pushing
But
as we
I
were.
love that you're playing Plinko. They had a giant Plinko game at Costco when I went in the other day. And I was like, I feel like I kind of need giant Plinko. So enjoy your Plinko, you guys. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate
Thank you for
it.
making
Thanks
the
so much,
time.
Maggie.
Of course.
And so tell us real quick. Oh, never mind.
Oh,
So I
she's
will tell you,
She's
we've
done.
got the American Whiskey Magazine. We have Relish. I know I'm forgetting.
You talk about where she's publishing in?
Yes, where she's
Yeah, so
competing.
American Whiskey Magazine, just Whiskey Magazine, no E. And she's a managing editor of Bourbon Veach. That was the Mike Veach guy that she mentioned. And I posted the link also, but she also mentioned she publishes in Artisans.
Yes.
Whiskey. There was an article that I wanted to look up later. Artisan Spirits magazine, and there was another one. But I think if you go to that website that I posted in the chat or follow her on Instagram, LouGirl502, you should be able to find
and there's a
her
lot
stuff.
there. Yeah, she has all of it listed there. She's also the chair of the World of Whiskies Awards in the USA.
Gotta get
she does
Nancy
a lot of
on.
those. Yeah, so
Can you imagine the geeking out when Nancy comes on? It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome. I love it.
Yeah, and Nancy and I, we talked for a while there trying to get our calendars together, but she's off doing important things now.
Yeah,
so
life.
We'll just go watch her stuff. And Nancy, I'm so glad you jumped in and said hello. Thank you very much. Thank you for the super chat. Maggie had nothing but great things to say right before you came in. No, I'm really glad you came in.
Rewind, I promise. It was all good things. We had just been talking about you. That was funny. And about you mentoring somebody at Wyoming Whiskey and at a Virginia place, Amanda Beckwith, somewhere in Virginia, which I just thought was really cool about, just native, like you being a woman in the world and mentoring these two other ladies that she was doing an article on kind of thing. I'm sure you do tons of mentoring and everything, but I think it's awesome that you.
Yeah, she was talking about how you're not celebrated enough for the mentoring that you do. And then we talked about you and Irene a little bit. So, okay, at this point, if you are a patron of Women Whiskeys, it is time to put hashtag Plinko in the comments. Some of you are way ahead of us.
Brazo, I hope one of your number ones was also a hashtag Plinko because they ain't gonna count.
Just saying. If you're one of our Patreon members, hashtag Plinko, we're gonna give away some free shit. You want to know what? Let's look.
Yeah.
All right. You can win a t-shirt, a mini Glen, a regular Glen. The Criminals and Cocktails mini Glen, the Wow Leather Journal, the $20 gift certificate, a Stozel nosing glass, the bottle of the week, which is a Smoke Wagon uncut, unfiltered, or the Women of Whiskies rocks glass, which is the original bubble butt rocks glass.
Bubble butt! I love that glass.
That's what's up for grabs tonight. Oops, there it goes.
We're both clicking things.
All right. If you guys are ready, it looks like we have all our hashtags in. Let's give away.
Patreon Plinko. It's a game to play. With whiskey in our hands, we make your day. Support the show. Enjoy the fun with the women of whiskeys. Cheers, everyone. Well, now you know. It's time for Patreon Plinko.
Yay! All righty.
Such a good song. He never gets old.
Who's ready? Hey, did you guys notice the new intro? I mentioned it last time, but just in case you weren't here, the new intro, Adriana worked hard on that and it turned out really freaking good. Not the Patreon one, the live stream one.
Yeah. I got to make a new one for the Patreon one, but at least I finally got the intro one done.
Yes. Just
Get on that, Fraser.
get on that. There's good stuff. Richie Z is drinking from one of our Glens. Nice.
As you should.
All right.
How's it going, buddy?
Oh, see, that's what we're talking about right there.
Right? I love that. And I'm glad I got her name right.
Okay, are we ready? Let's share a
Ready.
screen and do some things.
All right, it's Plinko time.
Share the screen, do some things. I'm learning all this technical stuff.
It's her first time, y'all. So,
All right, are we ready? Are we in there? Okay, we are.
I got you.
Let's collect them. 11.
Ooh, 11 trees.
We're still missing quite a few patrons. That's really good odds.
Hey. Got some
Here we go.
being early on. Hey, Jeffrey Wack. Here we go.
Dun, dun,
Dun, dun,
dun,
dun,
dun,
dun,
dun,
dun,
dun,
dun.
dun,
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 dun, dun, dun, dun, dun.
dun. We need a song
Nothing
for
like the
this.
dissonance of two songs of, hey, Jason Sensibility! Ah.
Yay, congratulations. All right. Well, then, Doug, we need you to pick a letter between A and F of where we're going to drop this and see what you win.
A through F, Doug.
A through
Who
F.
attended the corn varietals class? It
Yeah,
sounds like that she had. That sounds like that would have been a pretty cool class.
And he was our tour guide while we were down in NOLA doing all these classes.
Right. All
about
right.
E?
He's going with E. Echo.
Echo? 1.
Oh,
A.
E for
A,
echo.
E,
Sorry.
E, E, E. Ready?
Look at
Number
you
3.
bring in the. All right, I'm bringing it up.
Number 3. It's the Women
Hey!
with the Glen. Yay! Guess what?
Ah,
Go to your house.
I don't have
Quick
space on my
update.
notes anymore. Doug.
Quick update. Those of you that, well, Doug that won tonight, and those of you that won in our big mystery box giveaway last week, I am going to be out of town this weekend, so you will see your stuff. You'll see your shipping labels coming through Monday or Tuesday. So
Okay.
just a heads up. I don't want you to wonder if you're getting your things. We know you won it. It's just going to be a few days out.
Yeah,
All
buddy.
right.
I like that in my head. I'm like, oh, that means I need to send my dad his Father's Day gift, which is not going
I
to
know.
get there on time. He's in Puerto Rico. It's not happening.
You know what? Oh my God. I'm so glad you just said that. Everybody's been saying, yeah, oh my gosh, I have to get something for my husband. Like, I got that handled. You just said my dad, and I'm like, oh shit.
It's like, yeah. Oh, right. Father's Day.
Him, the dad. Yeah, the dad. Yeah. Shit.
Yeah. Yep. Oh.
That's good.
Sending my dad some old headphones.
Ladies, my sincere apologies, but I need to
Get
get
on
back
it.
to cooking my dinner. You know what? Have a great
Thank
night.
you so
Nancy.
much.
Thank you for stopping in. We're going to wrap this up
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for stopping in. Guys, next week, regular times. Things.
Yes.
You guys love this slot. I love the fact that we got some of our East Coast love in here.
Yeah.
Even our
Yeah, no,
Central-
it was nice. It was a little chaotic to try and get home on time and be on time. But it is nice because I know we're super late for all the East Coasters. So, but it's a hard time slot to catch kind of thing too. Because Hello
And
Again Whiskey
Adriana and
Friends
I-
is on at 6 and
Mhm.
and then Jason. So yeah.
Yeah, Adriana and I have talked about somehow trying to pick up a little earlier slot somewhere, and we just have yet to figure out how to make that happen. Because we want to hang out with our friends that are, that don't have. I don't want someone to stay till 1 a.m. to watch our show. So, Anyway,
Yeah. But at least we do Criminals and Cocktails earlier in the day.
Sure.
So we kind of help
Sure.
make up for it there. So.
All right. Well,
All right. Cheers, everybody.
Everybody have a great night. We'll see you next Wednesday. Remember, there's no wrong way to drink your whiskey. Just drink it how you like it and share it with your friends. Good night.
Cheers to that.